Cheap houses don't exist anymore, and the reason isn't the one your uncle keeps shouting about at Thanksgiving. Picture this. It's a random Tuesday, and a builder is standing on a patch of dirt outside Phoenix doing the math on a small, simple starter home, the kind of house your grandparents bought on one income with a high school diploma, and he runs the numbers 3 times because they keep coming back the same way. He physically cannot build that house and sell it for a price a normal family can afford. Not because he's greedy, because the math is broken. Today, I'm going to show you exactly why the affordable house quietly went extinct in America, who killed it, and whether it's ever coming back. And the answer is going to make you angry in a useful way. My name is John, and I spend a genuinely unreasonable amount of time thinking about why the basic stuff that used to be normal, like buying a first home, suddenly feels like a heist you have to plan for a decade. If you've ever looked at home prices and felt like the rules changed while you weren't looking, hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it helps things finally click. Let's talk about why the cheap house died. Let me start with a number that should not be possible. In the late 1970s, roughly 40% of all new homes built in America were under 1/400 square feet. Small homes, starter homes, the honest no-frills box a young family actually starts in. Today, that number has collapsed to somewhere around 8%. Let that sit for a second. The most needed, most affordable category of house went from being almost half of everything built to being a rounding error. And here's the part that messes with people. It didn't disappear because nobody wants it. It disappeared because the system that produces houses stopped being able to make it pencil out. So I want to introduce you to 2 builders, because this is easier to feel than to explain in the abstract. Call them Frank and Maya. Frank built homes in 1975. Maya builds homes today. Same ambition, same work ethic, same desire to put roofs over families. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand why Frank could build cheap and Maya literally cannot, and why that single difference is reshaping who gets to own anything in this country. Here's the thing about a house. The price you pay isn't one number, it's a stack of numbers, and almost every layer of that stack has quietly inflated faster than your paycheck. There are 4 big forces that strangled the cheap house, and I'm going to walk through all of them, but I'm saving the 4th for last because it's the one almost nobody talks about, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. So keep that in your back pocket. Force number 1, land. When Frank wanted to build in 1975, raw buildable land near a growing city was abundant and cheap, and the cost of the dirt under a typical home was a small slice of the total. Today, in the metros where people actually want jobs, land is the single most brutal line item. In a lot of desirable areas, the lot alone can cost more than the entire house did a generation ago in real terms. And land doesn't get cheaper by working harder. You can't innovate your way out of a fixed amount of geography near good jobs. So right away, before Maya has poured a single foundation, she's starting from a price floor Frank never had to climb over. Which brings us to force number 2, and this is the quiet villain of the whole story: regulation and zoning. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. John, are you about to tell me the answer is just bulldoze all the rules? No, some rules are good. You want your house wired by a code, not by vibes. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Over the last 50 years, America layered rule on top of rule on top of rule, and each one added a little cost, and they compound. Minimum lot sizes that force every house to sit on an expensive amount of land. Bans on building anything except a single detached home across the majority of residential land in most American cities. Parking requirements, setback rules, permitting processes that can take months or years, and time is money when you're paying interest on a construction loan the whole time. Studies estimate that regulatory costs add somewhere in the range of 20 to 25% to the price of a new home. Think about that. A quarter of the price gone before a single nail does anything useful. And here's the cruelest mechanism. When rules make every project expensive and slow, builders respond rationally. If you're forced to spend a fortune on land, permits, and fees per house no matter what, you don't build the cheap small house, because the fixed costs eat the whole margin. You build the big, expensive house because that's the only way the math survives. The rules didn't ban cheap homes directly, they just made cheap homes the only thing that doesn't make financial sense to build. That's the trap. Force number 3, construction itself got more expensive and in ways that hit the small house hardest. Materials, yes, lumber, concrete, copper, all of it has ridden waves of inflation. But the deeper problem is labor. The skilled trades, the framers, electricians, plumbers, the people who actually build have been shrinking as a workforce for decades. We spent 30 years telling an entire generation that the only respectable path was a 4-year degree and a desk, and we quietly stopped feeding the trades. So now there's a structural shortage of the exact humans you need to build a house, and when something is scarce, it gets expensive. Here's where the data sandwich gets brutal. A skilled labor shortage means higher wages per worker, which is genuinely good for those workers, but it means the labor cost baked into every single home goes up. And again, watch what it does to the small house specifically. A lot of the cost of building doesn't scale down. The permits, the utility hookups, the foundation crew showing up, the inspector's time. A 1,000 square foot house and a 2,400 square foot house share a huge chunk of fixed costs. So the small house carries almost the same overhead, but sells for far less. Per square foot, building small is actually more expensive. So the builder who wants to help, who wants to make the affordable thing, gets punished by the math for trying. Now here's a quick gut check before we get to the fourth force. Be honest with yourself for a second. Up until now, everything I've described sounds like an accident. Bad luck. A bunch of separate problems that happened to pile up. Land got expensive, rules got heavy, labor got scarce. Just unfortunate timing. Hold that thought, because the fourth force is the one that turns this from a tragedy into something closer to a system working exactly as designed. The fourth thing nobody warns you about is this. The cheap house is worth more dead than alive, and there are powerful groups who quietly benefit from keeping it that way. Let me earn that, because it sounds dramatic. Start with the most obvious group. Existing homeowners. If you already own a house, your home is probably your single biggest asset, and you have a deep, often unspoken interest in your home's value going up, not down. New cheap housing nearby is the one thing that could slow that down. So when a developer proposes building smaller, denser, more affordable homes in an established neighborhood, who shows up to the city meeting to fight it? The neighbors. Not because they're cartoon villains, because the system rewards them for protecting scarcity. We even have a name for it, but the polite version is local control. And local control, over and over, votes against the cheap house. Multiply that by 10,000 city council meetings a year, and you get a country that has quietly, democratically voted to make housing scarce. But homeowners are just the visible layer. Here's where it gets really interesting. In the last decade, large institutional investors, Wall Street firms, private equity, big landlords, moved into the housing market at a scale that would have been unthinkable to Frank in 1975. After the 2008 crash, when prices cratered, these firms bought up huge numbers of single-family homes for pennies on the dollar and turned them into rentals. And here's the strategic insight that should make the hair on your neck stand up. For an investor who owns thousands of homes and rents them out, scarcity is the business model. The harder it is to build new, affordable homes, the more valuable their existing inventory becomes, and the more rent they can charge people who've been locked out of buying. A flood of cheap new starter homes is a direct threat to that. I'm not saying there's a single villain in a chair stroking a cat. There isn't. It's worse than that. It's a system where the interests of existing owners, big investors, and even local governments that fund themselves on rising property taxes all quietly line up in the same direction. Keep supply tight. Keep prices high. Don't build the cheap house. Nobody has to conspire when everybody's incentives already agree. Let me make this concrete, because abstractions let you off the hook. Go back to Maya, our modern builder. She finds a piece of land. Strike one, it costs a fortune because there's not much buildable land near jobs and everybody's competing for it. She goes to get it zoned and permitted for a cluster of small, affordable homes. Strike two, the zoning only allows large single-family lots, so she'd have to spend a year and a small fortune fighting for a variance, and the neighbors are already organizing against her. She redesigns to fit the rules. Now, each home has to sit on an expensive, oversized lot, so the land cost per house balloons. She prices it out. To cover land, permits, fees, materials, and the scarce labor, plus the year of loan interest while she waited on approvals, the cheapest she can possibly sell that house for is already out of reach for the family she wanted to help. So she does the only rational thing left. She builds fewer, bigger, more expensive homes, sells them to buyers who can pay, and the affordable house dies one more quiet death. Maya isn't the bad guy. Maya is trapped inside a machine that punishes her for trying to do the right thing, and every builder in America is making that same calculation right now. Now, I promised I'd tell you whether the cheap house is ever coming back, and I want to be honest with you because if I only gave you the doom, I'd be doing exactly what the rage bait channels do. Here's the real answer. It can come back, but only if we attack the actual causes instead of the fake ones. The fake answer you hear constantly is interest rates. Once rates drop, housing will be affordable again. No, lower rates make monthly payments cheaper for a while, but they also flood more buyers into the same scarce pile of houses, which pushes prices right back up. Cheaper money chasing the same scarce supply doesn't fix scarcity. It just rebids it higher. Affordability isn't a rate problem, it's a supply problem. The real fix is unglamorous, and it's already starting in a few places that got tired of the pain. Cities and states that have rolled back the worst zoning rules, that let people build small homes, duplexes, and backyard units on regular lots again, that streamlined permitting, so a project takes weeks instead of years, are actually seeing supply respond and price growth cool. It's not magic. It's just removing the obstacles that were strangling the cheap house in the first place. The places that build get more affordable. The places that block get more expensive. That simple. So where does that leave you? The actual person watching this who just wants a shot at owning a home? I want to give you something real, not just a lecture about policy you can't personally pass. First, understand that you are not bad with money and you're not behind because you couldn't easily afford what your parents could. The goalposts genuinely moved. Owning that truth changes how you plan because you stop blaming yourself and start strategizing. Second, the affordable inventory that still exists is hiding in the categories everyone else is ignoring. The smaller home that needs a little work, the townhome instead of the detached house, the growing city instead of the maxed out one. The places that are actually building are the places where your dollar still has a fighting chance, and you can choose to go where the math is friendlier. And third, this is the one that matters long term. The same scarcity that's hurting you as a buyer is exactly why owning, once you can swing it, has been such a powerful wealth builder. The forces keeping prices high are brutal on the way in, and they work for you the moment you're on the other side of the door. That's not fair. I want to be honest about that. But it's the game on the board, and pretending it's fair won't get you a house. Understanding it might. Let me bring this all the way back to Frank and Maya, because their 2 Tuesdays tell the whole story. Frank could build a cheap house because the land was affordable, the rules were light, the labor was there, and nobody had figured out yet that scarcity could be a business model. Maya can't build that same house because every one of those 4 things flipped. And they flipped in a direction that quietly serves people who already have, at the expense of people trying to get. The cheap house didn't die of natural causes. It was slowly, legally, and mostly invisibly squeezed out of existence by 1,000 decisions that each looked reasonable on its own. And here's the part that should stick with you. None of this is permanent unless we decide it is. Houses are not gold or oil. We know exactly how to make more of them. We have the land, the materials, and the workers. The only thing standing between America and affordable homes is a stack of rules and incentives we built ourselves, which means it's a stack we can choose to tear down. The math isn't broken because of physics. It's broken because of choices, and choices can be unmade. So here's what I want from you. Don't just walk away feeling informed and helpless, because that's the trap. If you own a home, the next time something affordable gets proposed near you, notice the instinct to fight it, and ask yourself honestly whether you're protecting your neighborhood or protecting your portfolio at someone else's expense. If you're trying to buy, stop hunting in the places that have decided to never build, and start looking where supply is actually growing, because that's where the door is still open. And if nothing else, take this one idea with you. When someone tells you houses are expensive because of interest rates or greedy builders or some single easy villain, you now know better. It's scarcity, and scarcity was manufactured. Once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. Now I'm curious where you land on this. Drop a comment and tell me, in your area, is it the land, the rules, the labor, or the quiet fight against new housing that's hurting most? I read these, and the patterns across the country are genuinely fascinating. Quick reminder, I'm not a financial advisor. This was for educational purposes only. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.